You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Hello, Steelers Nation. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you this afternoon as we come to you with heavy hearts as the news that we did not want to have to share, have to bear. But our good friend and our colleague, Dale Lolley, passing away at the age of 56, I guess in the late hours of last night, early hours of this morning, after a lengthy battle with a nasty cancer. And Matt, there's no other way to make this easy. There's I don't even think, for guys like us that are pretty, levity is a strong suit of us. There's no other way than to just kind of admit that this is a tough day, a huge loss, and things just won't be the same without our buddy and our colleague Dale around here.
No, it's been a tough. It's been tough months.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, the seat should be empty.
No, it should not.
Sorry. I haven't cried since I was 16.
I think between the last 6 months of Dale today and Wolf back in March, I'm right there with you. In my 34 years of life, have felt emotions this year that I didn't think I was capable of feeling.
Yeah. It's been a rough couple months. He's been going through a lot. And obviously he's been very aggressive and was really hard on him. So
yeah.
He was in a lot of pain at the end until the very end. So I kind of knew this was coming, but still
doesn't make it any easier. And we do take,
especially sitting here,
yeah,
what we've done together.
Where you guys have, this show, I think is a good representation of your friendship. Started about a decade or so ago.
I was shocked it was that long. It was quick.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the adage of time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I'll always remember. When Dale was around, everything was fun. It was lighter. There was always good conversation, whether it be about football, music, just life in general.
Yeah.
Kind of an omnipresence, and it's the same. Like I think this is maybe the biggest credit that I could give to Dale, and a lot of true and wonderful things that we could say about him. He had the same kind of omnipresence around us, around this town, around this organization, around Steelers football, as guys like Tunch and Wolf. But he didn't play for the team for a decade like Tunch and Wolf did. He was omnipresent around everything that we did. And, I like one of the things that I have been thinking a lot about today is success leaves clues. That's kind of like an old adage that you hear all the time. And Dale is just a guy that we can all learn so much from in terms of just what he gave to his career, to his relationships, to his family. That guy left a lot of clues about how to live life well and how to impact a whole community positively.
Yeah, and I did learn a lot from him, and he really became like a big brother to me, professionally in a way. We really should open with condolences to his family, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
he's got 3 really cool kids.
Yeah,
and they're older. They're all college or above right now. And his wife Amy's awesome. And my wife and I got to know them dinners and parties and stuff away from football, and became close with them. And my heart goes out to all the Lolleys, of course. But one of the first things I noticed about him was he's very professional. He was very tough And I'm like, man, this dude's a bulldog. You know, he could have 104 fever when we were doing the show. You know what I mean? Like,
no days off.
And that's why I wanted to do today. I mean, the show must go on. You know, he taught me a lot about that. Like, we're doing the show. You know, I mean, if there's nothing to talk about, we're talking for 2 hours, and we're gonna do the show. And I'll get here any way possible, we're gonna do the show. If I do from home, we're gonna do the show. I mean, and I didn't know Dale when we started the drive in passing, you know, but I wasn't at the Steeler facility a lot back then. We weren't on the air together. Reagan, who's in charge, thought we'd be a good pairing, and he was very, very right. We have a lot of common things in common, and didn't even realize we both went to the same college. We didn't quite overlap, but it was like, oh, you know, just things like that. But, you know, I had a different perspective on the sport than he did, and, you know, and it worked out really well, and so many of you people have enjoyed it, and thank you. But what stood out was, you know, I'm like, man, he's like the hardest working dude I've worked with. You know, back to ESPN 100%. Or, you know, even, you know, with teams and, you know, whatever. I'm like, man, he's gonna be hard to keep up with. And then when I got to really know him, I'm like, yeah, but he's also really freaking smart. I'm like, I assumed he was just a bulldog that worked his butt off to get where he was. You know, bring it back to football. He's like the prospect that, you know, like
the 2-star prospect who ends up.
I mean, I thought he was just the walk-on, you know, the special teamer that's just going to grind. And then you're like, oh man, but he's also 6'3" and runs a 4.2. I mean, like, you know, he also has the talent too. He's really, really bright. Like, he was a speed reader. You know, like we'd read articles. He'd read it in 4 seconds. It'd take me half the day to get through it, or whatever.
Comprehend everything and be able to regurgitate it perfectly.
You know, right. You know, so he's the best, and the empty chairs bother me.
Yeah, you know, really, we need to get that chair out of here. I'm with you, man. You know, when I got hired by iHeart and the Steelers, you know, Steelers Nation Radio, summer of 2018, it all happened very quickly. I had 2 weeks to move from Philadelphia, you know, back to my hometown, find a place to live with my wife, all that stuff, and get started for the job for training camp in the summer of 2018. And at that point, I knew our buddy Adam Crowley, and that was it.
Yeah, right.
I had grown up in the Pittsburgh area. I had grown up reading Dale Lolley and
you knew who Labs
Jerry
was, and
Dulac,
Pursuta, and Jerry, and all
I
those guys,
listened to Pursuta and Tunch and Wolf, and
my heart goes out to all them. They knew Dale longer than I did. You know, right?
Absolutely. And so, you know, I get there in 2018 to Latrobe. My first day of work with the company was the first day of training camp in 2018. And as you can imagine, that was a bit overwhelming. Like, my first time out in Latrobe, first day on a new job, I'm working with all these new people who I've never met before. Tunch and Wolf and you and Dale and, you know, the Tim Benzes of the world and the Missy Matthews of the world and all those people, Labs that we do shows with. And
it could be a little intimidating.
It can be a little intimidating.
Right.
And man, I could not have asked for and, you know, you deserve credit in this regard too, and Tunch and Wolf as well too. But, you know, Dale, you guys took me under your wing right away. And here's how training camp works, and here's how you get to the cafeteria, and here's what you need to know, and here's where we're going to go out at night and have some fun in the evenings, and here's the coaches you should be talking to. Matt, just sitting there and producing you guys during practice and listening to you two talk about practice for 2 or 3 hours every day, I think just via osmosis, I learned more and absorbed more about football than I ever could have hoped to. And, you know, I think there was kind of this, and I mean this in the best way possible, there was kind of this like hard edge about Dale, that bulldog mentality that you just mentioned. But when you peeled that back, man, it was the kindest,
I'd say he was really, really kind,
most caring guy you could think of. He cared so much about his relationships. He cared so much about the people in his life. He took so much pride in this industry, in talking football and being a voice for Steeler Nation, writing for Steeler Nation, whatever it was. Like, he cared so much about his work, about his career, about the community that is, you know, Steelers Nation, and everything that, you know, that you guys built here on the radio and podcast, and you guys doing Steelers.com videos as well too. And I know you know this. and I'm sure the listeners understand this, but I just want you to know, I want all the listeners to know, like, I feel the weight of being the person who has to. I'm not even
not
gonna
an
say,
easy chair to fill. Yeah.
I don't even want to say chair to fill or shoes to fill because I never will. I mean, Dale covered the team as long as I was alive, you know, and he knew more about the Steelers. He forgot more about the Steelers than I'll ever know.
Yeah.
But I want you to know, I want the listeners to know that is something that if you and I end up doing this for 10 years, whatever the case may be, I will never take that lightly. This will always be Dale's show. This will always be what Dale built. And I'll always be kind of striving to live up to that very high standard that you and him have set for Steelers coverage in this community.
Yeah, and I told the story before. It was somewhat recently. I told it on the air here about when this show started. There was a young man named Randy Slack who, real nice guy, you know, but he didn't really have a sports background from what I remember. He was a disc jockey
more of a
type.
music disc jockey guy, yeah.
And they had the three of us together, I think, basically with the thought of, you know, Dale had never hosted at that point, you know, like, I'm the sidekick, he's the host, you're the host, I'm the side, you know, it kind of works that way. I'm like the color guy. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't, you know. So Randy was going to bring us in and make sure we do the right ads, and he was a radio guy. Dale and I weren't radio guys.
You break every 15 minutes.
Yeah. They drove the ship. And even the first episode of The Drive, I'm sure, I don't know if you could ever even find it now, but definitely the first couple weeks, we're huddled around this little table in this corner, you know, like down at the Steeler facility, really uncomfortable. I hardly even know Dale. I definitely don't know Randy. And he would bring us in and mention some topic, Steeler O-line, this strong safety, whatever. Randy didn't get a word in, you know, the two of us just went boom. And I remember, you know, Reagan and the people in Steelers going, I think this is going to work, you know, like, it was immediate on the air chemistry before we were friends or, you know, and so many people have reached out today, but they have over the years too. Like, man, The Drive is just like sitting at the bar with you and Dale. And to me, that's like the biggest compliment. And we love that part of it. And he called it freeform jazz. Like, it's a little odd for me and I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. But like you and we do 6 segments a day. And we pretty much know what each segment's going to be. And I kind of helped initiate that, but that's more your bag too. I knew like one segment. I mean, we didn't know any clue what he might have an inkling what we were going to talk about, but it was just like we ordered 2 high lifes at the bar at Sharky's. And who
knows where this is going to go.
And that same conversation happened at the bar over hundreds of beers over the years. And I was thinking about it on the way in, you know, I bet we did thousands of hours of radio.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, I was just trying to like kind of add it up, and I didn't realize how far back we did it. 2 hours a day, 5 times a week.
10 hours a week for,
you get there pretty quick
10 years.
For 50 weeks, you know, minus vacations and stuff, and not to mention some shows were longer and draft stuff, and you know, incorporate a third person. So, you know, we used to joke that, you know. And then we'd text all night about football or whatever too, you know. It was like then we'd go watch the Thursday night game or make a fantasy trade or whatever. You know, I mean, it was just like all day, every day. You know, I'd send him an article in the morning. We should talk about this. Man, we never did. We ended up doing something else or whatever. And you know, we even have the joke. I mean, just to make light of it, I've never peed with somebody more than Dale Lolley. You know, like, and I think it's hilarious. You know, because we walk out of here every day. Hit the urinals, AC/DC's blasting on DVE, go to the car. You know, it's like still talking about football while we're taking a leak.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it was the same at the old station. It's just, you know, I've never peed with somebody as much as Dale, you know, just because we were always together.
And I know that friendship you guys had both on and off air, it showed. And I think that is part of why this show has grown to be, let's not kid ourselves, and this has absolutely nothing to do with me in the last month or month and a half or whatever. This has grown to be the biggest football show in Pittsburgh and one of the biggest football shows in the country. Mm-hmm. And you don't get to that point without the chemistry and the relationship that you both had.
Oh, he drove the ship. I mean, I just showed up and do whatever, you know.
The amount of times that you and I would be somewhere like training camp or the combine or these places that we travel together, or even, when like Dale and Mike Pursuta were always my guys on the road when I've been traveling with the Steelers. But the amount of times that like you and I would be like, all right, let's go. Where are we going? Whether we were in Indianapolis or training camp, like dinner's over, we've gotten our work done. It's 7:30, 8 o'clock. Like let's go, belly up to the bar and talk some more football. The amount of times that Dale would be like, I'm gonna have to meet you there later because I got another story to write.
Oh yeah,
or I'm gonna have to
grind this one out and then I'll be there.
I'll be there in another hour because I got to transcribe this. I'll be there in a few minutes after you guys because I still have X, Y, and Z to do.
Mm-hmm.
That would happen to Pursuta and I with him all the time on the road. It would happen when we were all together, in settings like in Indianapolis for the combine or out in Latrobe for training camp. And it just there is. I'll go back to that whole like success leaves clues thing. When you see the success and the following and the respect that Dale had of his colleagues and of all the Steelers fans in this town, across the country and across the world. You don't get to that point without putting in the work and the time and the effort like he did.
Yeah, and it really showed up to me in training camp because pull back the curtain, Dale came up to camp and and he shouldn't have been there. He was not doing well. This was the opening day of camp, and quickly realized he can't be on the air. He could barely speak, and so he did show up for a day and then left, and then all of his colleagues, Jim Wexell in particular, and all those dudes, Matt, what have you heard? Tell me, all the time, every time he'd walk through the cafeteria or whatever, it's all I talked about all training camp.
Yeah.
They're at the bars or the owner of Sharkies. There's all these people, and they all cared, and a lot of them reached out to him, and so I don't think a lot of people knew how bad it was and what all he was going through, but. Like I said, he's a bulldog, and I almost wanted to choke him out, but it was a month or so ago. I mean, things started to really get bad right around like OTA's minicamp, because he had just gotten back from vacation in Mexico, which he wasn't doing great, and he hates the beach.
I was going to say, if you all don't know that about Dale, Dale hates the beach.
Because he's super pale. He burns like crazy. He doesn't like sand. There's not much else at the beach if that's not your bag. He'll have a beer or two on the beach, but his wife, this was planned, and his wife loves the beach. So, yeah, hon, we'll go to the beach. And he wasn't feeling well, and he goes to the beach, and then he comes back for OTAs and minicamp, and that's, they really noticed that he was not doing great, to be kind. But I wanted to say I wanted to choke him out like a month ago because he had a lot of vocal cord issues because of the cancer, and I don't know exactly medically how that works.
Sure.
But basically, I think you have two vocal cords, and one was riddled with cancer, and it didn't really work, frankly. So he couldn't speak. And those of you that remember him his last couple times on the drive, it was a grind for him to get through it.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a hard time doing a segment with me at times. But of course he kept fighting through it. But what I wanted to say was he had surgery a month or two ago, and I hope I'm not telling too many details about him, just to get his throat done so he could come back here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is not what you should be worrying about. Not for you and I to talk about the Packers left guard or Carson Wentz versus Browning this week. I mean, just get well. And he's like, that's what I want to do, man.
Yep.
I want to be at training camp. I can't really, but I want to be at training camp. I want to be on the air. I want to be sitting there, And I have a feeling I'll be the same way whenever I go.
Yeah.
It's just, we're lucky enough to do something we love. With people we love.
100%. And like I said, I think if you listen to Dale for 30 minutes or you listened and read his work for 30 years, I think that bled through in everything that he did.
Yeah. He never wrote an article and was like, I half-assed that one, put it in the bag.
Correct.
Correct. I mean, it was always maximum effort and maximum ability.
And I know, and obviously, I mean, if there's anything else, you want to say, obviously, but I think we can.
But the show has to go on, and that's was kind of what he taught me in this business too. Like, got a broken leg, or you got a fever, or whatever, or we're gonna grind out a show.
Mm-hmm.
There was times when we had, like everyone, there's personal stuff going on. You don't really want to, or and we're going to knock it out. I mean, and the other thing I want to mention is, you had said before we went on the air, it's hard to talk about this stuff and do our job and perform when it's not top of your mind,
Yeah.
and we're going to do a bunch of segments the rest of the day talking about football, and that's fine by me. But it stuck out to me that during COVID, there wasn't much going on. Like you'd go to that old radio station at DVE.
Ghost Town, tumbleweeds. I mean, it should take me 20 minutes to drive there. It took me 4. I mean, there's nobody on the roads. Stan was in there, rest in peace with him too. Another guy we lost recently, too young, too recently. But I remember like the place was empty every day, and Dale and I were grinding out drive after drive, day after day. And so many people reached out to us during COVID, like, hey, I have COVID, or I'm not doing well, or I'm stuck at home losing my mind. The 2 hours that you give us of the drive every day goes a long way, So maybe we can make people, that we're touched by Dale Day a little better, for doing this today, Well said. And I know that there were hundreds of people, thousands of people in that category. Matt, you and I, since July, have been getting tweets from people every day about Dale.
And I've ignored them all on purpose.
And I
folks,
I think now people will understand that in hindsight.
Right.
I hope
he was telling people, I'm just getting over pneumonia, and
I hope nobody
did have pneumonia on top of it.
Correct.
But there was bigger issues, and I'm not throwing it back on Twitter. And thank you, everybody, for reaching out and asking it leading up to it. But I ignored you on purpose, and I'm sure you did too.
And I did, and I think, again, now I think that'll make sense to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make it any easier for anybody, but I hope they at least understand that we were trying to respect his privacy, give him space.
Yeah.
And kind of
Twitter's the place for that.
No, not at all. But at the same time, the magnitude of people that were concerned for for his well-being did not go unnoticed.
Oh, I'd probably get 20 tweets a day.
Yep.
When's Dale coming back? Is he okay? Miss him. Boy, you guys are great together. All sorts of those things.
Says everything you need to know about him. As does a kind of close down with this, if it's all right with you, Matt, a great article on Steelers.com.
It's really well done.
Written by Bob Labriola as a tribute to Dale. And I could, but I can't read the whole thing, not because it's crazy long or anything like that, but if I tried to get through reading it all again now, I wouldn't make it. I would turn into a blubbering mess here. But I will.
Yeah, it was posted while I was getting in the car to come here today.
Same. I read it. I read it as I was pulling out of my driveway.
And,
I read it as I was pulling out of my driveway, and let's just say I had blurry vision pulling out of my neighborhood and getting onto 79. A great article written by Labs that I encourage everybody to read. But I think, if it's all right with you, Matt, we can kind of close down this segment with this. The final thing that Labs put in this article for Dale was actually once written by Dale when he left DK Pittsburgh Sports to join the Steelers full time. Everybody who listened to this show or was around Dale knew that, obviously he loved football and baseball, but he also loved music. And
what's funny is he grew up baseball and basketball.
Football
wasn't his bag. I mean, he was a good hooper for an played some center at 6 foot and took on 6'8" dudes and stuck his elbows in their ribs, and bet he's a real pain in the ass to play against. I can tell you that back then.
I bet he was, and I bet you he was a tough Little League baseball
coach. Up till a couple months ago, he still thought he could run a 6.0 40. We had a battle going on about if he could run a 40 and 6.0, and same with Starks. I'm like, no way on either of you. And at that point, I'm like, you just kicked wave 1 of cancer, but you just had cancer, dude. You're not running a 6.0 40. He's like, I'm no doubt, training camp, I'm going to do it. And that's who he is,
That's exactly
competitive as hell.
Exactly who he is. Competitive as hell, bulldog, but just one of the kindest, caring people you could ever hope to meet. At the same time, that was the perfect balance that he struck. When Dale left DK Pittsburgh Sports for his kind of full-time gig with the Steelers a few years ago, here's what he posted. Of course, Dale was a big George Harrison fan, one of the members of the Beatles, of course, for those of you that know classic rock. Dale said, "It's been a great run here, one I'll always recall fondly. All apologies to George Harrison. All things must pass. None of life's strings can last. So I must be on my way and face another day." We love you, Dale. Back on the drive here as we roll along on a Wednesday afternoon. Matt, around this time, every single Wednesday, we get to our best of the West. Real simple concept. I rank the top 10 of something in the NFL.
Yeah, okay.
And you kind of give your thoughts and critique. Yes, no, liked this, didn't like this. For the third,
and I don't see them beforehand or
correct,
anything.
correct.
Just pull back card. Yeah.
For the what I think is the third, maybe the second, but the third straight week, I'm gonna just continue to do best 10 teams in the NFL.
Okay.
But we will kind of, this will evolve throughout the season. Sometimes it might be top 10 quarterbacks. Sometimes it might be top 10 defenses. If we're in the middle of March and April and need something to talk about, it might be top 10 places to grab a bite to eat around Pittsburgh. Right?
Yeah. I'm cool with it.
But a little best of the West here, and we will start towards the back as always. And Matt, I got to be honest with you. Normally I have, like I joked with you last week, like a college AP, top 25 poll where you also see the others receiving votes.
Mm-hmm.
Normally I have a couple others receiving votes. This week I did not.
The NFL's in kind of a weird spot right now. Like I did a little bit of previewing games on another podcast. I'm like, are the Texans really going to be 0-3? Is Arizona really going to be 3-0? Like it's sometimes after that you get those two games in the books, you're like, I can't imagine some of these teams just keeping it up.
Yes.
2's different, 3 starts to be a trend.
Yes.
And, but we're learning things quickly, and I think we know who the best teams are, but is there a sleeping giant we don't know? And there usually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're starting to get that picture a little bit, at the same time, too. Like, are some of the teams that we thought were really going to be bad this year? Indianapolis Colts.
Great example.
Might they be okay? A team that we thought was primed to really be good this year, the Houston Texans or the Kansas City Chiefs that are now at 0-2. How do you evaluate them at this point? This one was a little tough to do, but I think tough in just the sense of picking the top 10 teams, not as much with like the mushy middle.
Okay.
So, number 10, I have the Niners. I know they're really banged up right now.
Yeah.
But they're 2-0. They still they've got such a way to play and a way to win under Kyle Shanahan and what they've built there.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but if they get healthier, as they get healthier, I think this is a dangerous team once again. I don't think they certainly have the ultimate ceiling that they did 3, 4, 5 years ago, but I still think this is a good and dangerous team.
Yeah, and Mac Jones is a legit dude. Like if you had to play Rudolph for a while, if you had to play Mac Jones for a while, okay, it's not total disaster. These guys have been around the block. He fits the system really well. Shanahan knows how to win and scheme things up. I've mentioned before I host a Peacock and Williamson podcast, and he's a Niners guy, and he thinks the MVP of the Niners season so far is Robert Saleh, who got fired by the Jets, coming
now
back
their defensive
and just
coordinator, getting
the most out of a very young defense. You got Warner, you got Bosa, but then you got a lot of moving parts there. And that's been kind of the buoying effect, for the whole team while the offense is fighting stuff, So I know that you probably do these semi like power ranks, but I do think it's noteworthy. Like when you talk about like sharp strength of schedule, easiest schedule in the league too. So
with a 2-0 start, that's big.
Yeah. Maybe it ends up being an 11-win team or something like that.
I think there's a real chance they could win the division again. I know that that's far off, but at this point, the way they're playing, the way the schedule looks, if they get some guys back in the health department, I certainly don't think it's impossible. Number 9, I think the hardest team to evaluate to this point, but I am going to continue to give them a little benefit of the doubt based on who they are and who they've played. 2 teams that are in the top 10 here that they lost to by 1 score each. I got the Chiefs at number 9.
They have to be in this somewhere.
Where they still do.
I don't know, but they have to be in the top 10.
If they would have gotten blown out by the Chargers or blown out by the Eagles, I think it's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation.
But they had won like 17 straight 1-score games. Now they've lost 2 in a row. Okay.
So hypothetical, let's say the Chiefs are 8-1 and one of those losses happens in week 10. Okay, so what? They're 8-2 and they're
exactly
you wouldn't
right.
lose. They're back-to-back tight losses. You can explain them away. But let's not be blind either. I think there's more cause for concern than ever.
Totally.
No doubt.
Totally. They are in a weird spot.
They are.
But still,
Like the
I
Chargers have a 2-game lead on them, and have a head-to-head.
could very easily start 3-0 with their
Yeah.
clash with the Raiders coming up for the Chargers. Number 8, I've got the Rams.
I'm very cool with that. Stafford's pretty awesome right now.
I think so too. And like you and I think we said this yesterday, as long as he's healthy with what they've got at wide receiver, with what they got on that defensive line, that's a good team.
When we were talking Niners, I almost said I would have the Rams number 1 in that division, but I didn't want to bring it up. I wanted to see if you had them ahead. And that's about where I'd have them too. I would have them slightly ahead of the Niners.
These next 2 were very difficult for me. Feel great about my top 4.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about 8, 9, 10. 5, 6, 7, I guess these next 3 are a little difficult. I went Bucks at 7.
I think that's earned.
I think I know they're a little banged up, and losing Kalijah Kancey for the whole year stings.
That's another one, yeah.
It's a big loss, but the way that they're playing right now is still very good, and it's like this is also a team that's made the playoffs for 5 straight years and won a lot of division titles recently.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks are legit.
Ibuka's a real nice addition. Defensive-minded head coach will always have that side of the ball pretty strong. The Kancey thing hurts. And they got hit as hard as anyone. I mean, Wirfs, Godwin, these guys. I don't know his current status, but the right tackle, Gedke, who they just gave a nice contract to, not blow the doors off, but he's a real high-quality right tackle. I thought that might be too much for them to overcome. It wasn't at the end of the Houston game. You can't lose both tackles.
No.
I mean, they don't grow on trees.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Okay, these next 2, difficult. Number 6, I got the Lions, though. Back from, everyone.
Statement game.
A statement game, going back home after licking their wounds from Lambeau Field. They put up 50-plus on the Bears. They win by 31 points.
Yeah.
As you and I have said a few times, I don't know if their Super Bowl window, part of me, is as wide open as it's been the last couple years, but this is still one of the better teams in the National Football League.
It might not be. It might be closing.
It might not be the whole way open, but
yeah.
there's still room there.
They got a lot of star power too. I mean, Brian Branch and Hutchinson and Sewell and St. Brown and Gibbs and the guys that are really good at what they do, and overcome. I mean, we bring it up all the time. You lose both coordinators. You lose a starting center. You lose interior linemen. I mean, they had a lot of things go against them this offseason, but they still got a lot going for them.
They absolutely do. Absolutely do. And, yeah, I think reports of their demise after week 1 greatly exaggerated. Number 5, the one team on this list I feel the most not confident in.
Okay.
I was trying to think of the word. Unconfident is not a word.
I think we agree there's 4 that are a little different than 5, 6, 7. Right?
Correct. I got the Chargers at number 5.
I've been hesitant to buy in, and I'm buying in.
This might be the highest I have them all season.
I kind of lean towards it is, but that's pretty high.
But the resume is pretty impressive right now.
Yeah.
And I think they got the quarterback, and I think the other pieces around him are only going to get better and improve.
He could win MVP. I mean, he's that type of guy, and I've been kind of just commenting, I feel like he's leveling up, that maybe Burrow's injury, he has to walk away from the round table for a little, and then, so Lancelot's gone, I'm just going to sit here, Herbert, I mean, there's a spot at the table, and he's ready to take it as those top 4 guys.
I am leaning in that direction as well. I did not think I would have the Chargers.
They are well coached.
They are well coached.
Physical.
They've got an identity. They're physical. They are completely bought into what they're doing there, and it's so far so good. Now the top 4, I think everybody probably has this same top 4 teams. At least I think you should. It's just the question of what order do you have them in. I go Eagles 4, Ravens 3, Bills 2, Green Bay Packers number 1.
I think I agree.
I know that sounds crazy to have the Eagles at 4.
I know, but somebody has to be.
Somebody has to be.
I mean, it's easy to say there's not 3 better teams in the league than the Eagles, and you might be right if you said that, but somebody has to be at 4.
I'm very confident in the Packers being number 1. Then the other 3.
I'm kind of confident the Packers being 1.
Yeah?
I mean, I would say I'm super confident, but yeah, we talked about this yesterday. You have to put the Bills over the Ravens.
At this point.
Today.
Not in week 12.
No,
but today.
I don't want to hear back in early September they won when the snow's falling.
Yeah, when it's Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah.
Their teams are the same. But if we're going to do it now, you have to put the Bills over the Ravens. And that game could have went either way. But it went one way, and so you got to go that way.
Yep.
That's the tiebreaker.
Yep.
So I'm cool with that. There are some concerning Eagle things, though, a little. I mean, we're nitpicking on the 4 best teams. Their second corner isn't great. Their D-line's still really good, but they lost more than they gained.
Not what it was last year.
Right. I mean, so some of those younger guys just need to prove it that they're ready, and they probably are.
You win the Super Bowl, and a lot of your guys get plucked and get big money in free agency.
And they haven't needed it, and I think some people saw this blurb, Chris Jones is getting on Hurts about, you didn't even throw for 100 yards. He's like, yeah, but we won. But they didn't even throw for 100 yards. I mean, again, if we're nitpicking, do we know the passing game is good? I don't know that right now.
They were asking the same question this time last year, and they ended up figuring it out. But it was
good when it needed to be.
It's a new year, and they got to prove that they can do it again. But, yeah, I think that top 4, kind of unquestioned top 4, just what order you have them. That's my best of the West for week 3, Matt.
Yeah, I can't fight you too much.
We're going to take a break here. On the other side, some good news from Steelers practice that I want to get to.
Could use some good news.
To close, yes, we could. And I will try and deliver some for you when we return on the other side. Some good news from Steelers practice that we will get into to close down hour number 1. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good news from the South Side today at Steelers practice, Matt, as first-round pick Derrick Harmon returned to practice for the first time since he sprained his MCL in the preseason. He is wearing a brace on that right knee, as I think everyone would imagine. But a lot of speculation. When could he return? When will he return? The first part of that is getting his butt back on the practice field, and he did that today. First practice since that MCL injury for Derrick Harmon. That's good news. That's a good starting point.
Yeah, on a Wednesday, so maybe he can string. A lot of these times, Dale was great at this kind of stuff for being in practice all the time. It's like, okay, he goes out and he does stuff. Let's see how it feels tomorrow. Can you do 2 practices in a row?
And maybe you can do a little bit more tomorrow than you did today.
Yeah, and maybe it's like, I better back off. I'll take this week off. Or, it held up pretty well. Let's see how we go tomorrow. But right, the fact that he's out there doing stuff on a Wednesday, real positive. I mean, I would think at a minimum, and we kind of knew this when he was not put on IR, you got to think he's playing in Dublin.
I would hope that, like, worst case scenario,
right.
They give him, like, hey, you're our first round pick. We're hoping you're going to be here for the next 12 years. You know, let's give you 1 extra week to be safe. But I would think worst case scenario, he makes his debut in Dublin. But I think at least the door is, who knows how wide that door is open, but the door is at least open for him to play this weekend in New England.
Yeah, and maybe the New England, it's like, we just want to put you out there in 3rd and longs, or we're going to give you 10 snaps. And sometimes people say that, and you go into the game, and he's like, Coach, I can do more. And we'll see. I know you're about to bring it up, but Loudermilk goes to IR. So the fact that they didn't bring another D lineman in the mix, pretty promising. Right?
They
could sure use them.
That's a good kind of reading of the tea leaves by you there as well too. And that is the other news of the day. Isaiah Loudermilk has been placed on IR, of course, with that high ankle sprain that he suffered in the first half against Seattle. No IR for Alex Highsmith, though, which I think is a good news in the bigger picture for his timeline. We had kind of speculated a little bit yesterday if either of those guys could be headed to IR. Loudermilk does head to IR.
They've never called his a high ankle sprain, I don't think.
Loudermilk? Or Highsmith?
Highsmith.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Mike Tomlin made sure to make that distinction in his press conference. And for those who maybe don't, follow NFL injury reports or speak much medical, high ankle sprain worse than an ankle sprain. So better news for Highsmith than it was for Loudermilk, and that's reflected in the roster moves here. With Loudermilk moved to IR, now getting called up to the active roster, DeMarvin Leal.
Right.
And as you mentioned, that's not a square peg for a square peg.
Right.
Leal has been an edge. Has been.
He's a full-time outside.
He's a full-time outside guy now, which Loudermilk is not. So while they're similar, that's not a 1-for-1, one guy in, one guy out.
No. So we've talked about this a lot. In the run game, everyone's running away from TJ. Yeah. So I think now that Herbig's back, good, but I don't want him also to be to the offense's left. You hold the point 30 carries right at you all day long. He's just not built to do that. That's not who he is. He's a pass rusher, and that pass rush is going to be really valuable, and it was last week. Sawyer's a rookie, but he's kind of was brought in for that duty too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this stage of Leal, he's that guy too. He's not super twitchy. He's not going to really bend the edge. He's not going to give you much as a pass rusher. But now you have two big-bodied, run-stuffish guys, in the mix. And Harrison did a little of that, then he got hurt. Highsmith's pretty good at it, hurt. Herbig, you don't want to do that, and you totally trust
Jack Sawyer.
Right.
Yeah. That to me is hopefully a sign that Leal is the Highsmith replacement, and hopefully Derrick Harmon is the healthy replacement along the defensive line.
I think that's what it's telling us.
Interior,
yeah.
At
and
least
I would
as
think
we sit
Leal
here today.
probably gets a hat on Sunday too.
I would absolutely think
you would lean that way.
That's going to be the case. With that as well, too, some moving and shaking to the practice squad. So
actually, some brand name guys to throw in the practice squad.
Absolutely.
Right.
Rakeem Jarrett, the wide receiver, was released, the third-year guy out of Maryland. J.J. Galbraith, the rookie tight end out of South Dakota, who we spent a lot of time talking about out in Latrobe.
You got a lot of action there.
Was released from the practice squad as well, too. With that, 3 additions to the practice squad because the 2 releases and then DeMarvin Leal being called up, so that leaves 3 spots on the practice squad. Matt Sokol, a second-year tight end out of Michigan State. Isaiah Hodgins, wide receiver, 4th-year guy out of Oregon State. And Jawan Bentley, linebacker, 8th-year man out of Purdue, most recently with the New England Patriots.
So Sokol I've heard of, and Hodges I've heard of. And Hodges has caught some passes for the Giants when their receivers were real weak, frankly, the last couple of years, like pre-Neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's a big body guy. He's not super flashy or dynamic, but he has a tough edge to him. He's kind of a move the chains dude from what I remember. Nice story, But Bentley's interesting. I'm not saying it's the same thing as Peppers, but this guy's been around the block, to say the least. Is a big-time downhill thumper in like the Landon Roberts, Malik Harrison mold. He will blow you up. Not the swiftest of foot or want him in coverage, flipping his hips, running with top tight ends and things like that. I think he actually has played some fullback just as a Belichick type thing. And I guess it's relevant. We're talking Patriots this week, and we'll talk about them more the next 2 days. But I think what Vrabel wants, and this isn't a knock on Belichick. Vrabel played under Belichick. I think they're friends, blah, blah, blah. But I think they want Belichick guys out of the building. It's the Vrabel, Drake May team. I don't need Tom. I don't need Bill.
This is how we used to do it. This is how I've always done it.
Right. I mean, it's such a amazing tradition, and I'm sure you can feel hints of those guys everywhere. But that doesn't help you win now. You got to put your own stamp on the team, and you never want to be the guy that follows the guy. But Vrabel wasn't. There was a dude in between that failed. So now I look a lot better because I'm not compared to Bill as much.
Yes.
Smart.
No. It absolutely
I think that's why Peppers and Bentley are out there.
And I think even when you're coming off of a successful era, obviously, as the Bill Belichick era was, you got to do your own thing. You got to chart a new path. You got to close one chapter and start another.
Yeah.
Bill Cowher had to do that when he took over for Chuck Noll. Mike Tomlin had to do that when he took over for Bill Cowher, despite the success that those guys had. And what you want to keep around in some cultural things, there just has to be a turning of the page into a new era at the same time.
Right. I mean, this isn't fantasy football. These are locker room guys. Man, we never did this when we were winning Super Bowls. I don't need that. And be different if it was Richard Seymour in his prime. You don't let him go.
Sure.
I mean, but the Bentleys and Peppers of the world might have more value to them outside the building, but to the Steelers, they got a lot of value inside their building.
100%. 100%.
I hope we see Peppers this week.
I'd
be shocked if we don't.
I'll be shocked if we don't.
Right.
I'm not saying it's going to be some massive role and be double-digit snaps, but I'll be shocked if he doesn't step between the white lines a few times.
Yeah. We're planning on having Chris Halleck on. I'm going to bring that up. Could Mike Peppers make a debut? Those dudes that, as we found out over the years with my man in the empty seat here, I mean, those dudes at practice, they know a thing or two of how things might go. Yeah.
Exactly right. That's the one thing, you had that nice benefit with Dale of having a boots on the ground there every day at practice.
And even sometimes off the air, he'd be like, they might run a reverse this week.
See, Dale was seeing how the sausage was made, right?
And there are some goofs on the sideline to cover the team. I won't call anybody out that are just head in the clouds, not getting anything out of practice, just down there because they have to be. But then there's the people that know what they're talking about and realize I'm learning a lot from practice if you pay attention.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Absolutely. And that's something Moats used to drill into me all the time, too. Like, those context clues are there as long as you're paying attention.
It's not always easy to find.
Know what to watch. You got to know what to look for. You got to know where to look for those clues, but they are out there. That'll do it for our news of the day. Like Matt mentioned, hour number 2, we're going to talk to Chris Halleck. We're going to do our weekly college quarterback update here as well, too. And a kind of, the hodgepodge of randomness, a early look.
Threw out some Twitter stuff last night, and I've been doing some digging. Matt Stats gets finalized tonight, even despite the Dale news. Poor guy doesn't have to edit that thing anymore. That was I'm not. That was not his favorite assignment.
The one thing that Dale didn't enjoy about his job was
he didn't like when I emailed him that thing. Yeah.
Editing Matt's 5,000 randomly placed. That thing was like Charlotte's Web. It goes here and then it starts there and then it comes here and then it goes back there and it's over here and it's like a spider spinning a web all over the place. We'll get into all of that in hour number 2 and more. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Hour number 2 of The Drive here as we roll along on a Wednesday as the afternoon rolls into the evening. It is time for one of our new Wednesday traditions here on the show. That is our college quarterback check-in, Matt.
Got to do it.
And I think this has, been a good start. It's been a lot of fun. For those who might have missed the first couple weeks that we did this, listen, I think 2 things are no secret to Steelers fans and football fans in general. One, that the Steelers, in a high likelihood, could be in the quarterback market in the first round next year.
Yes, even if Rodgers returns.
Even if Rodgers returns, certainly.
He's not young.
They've got a lot of draft capital, and that draft is, of course, on the North Shore of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the end of April. Would all set up for quite a scene. That's the first part of it. The second part of it is, too, no matter who you ask or read or look to, they will tell you that this is a year that is seemingly going to be loaded for quarterbacks.
It's a lot of names.
Could be one of those years, 4, 5, 6 guys taken in the first round, maybe even more in the top 50. So I think it's worth, just 10 minutes every week to keep an eye on and converse about.
Yeah, and no question. And it's even kind of how I view college football. Like, this Saturday, I watched very little. I didn't watch the brawl. I didn't, my mom, my aunt and uncle and I, we played cards for like 6 hours on a porch in 80-degree weather, and it was wonderful and had a blast, And then I put some on later, but I wasn't real into it. I don't know exactly how these guys did this week, but I think this segment's important. And maybe we'll even throw out some other draft prospects here and there, Downs from Ohio State, keep an eye on this dude, or the running back from Love from Notre Dame, I guess was tearing it up, just names to know ahead of time. Because I always tell myself before the season, and I should know better by now, I'm going to be ahead of the draft more than I usually am and then the NFL season hits and it's hard to stay ahead of the draft more than you usually are. So I'm glad that we can at least check in.
Yes.
And I think our listeners is important too. Like, probably no one knows Robertson from Baylor, the quarterback. But he was really intriguing before this year.
Yes,
and now he's getting more and more intriguing.
Yes, he
so
is.
If Baylor football's on at 3 p.m. this weekend, maybe tune in through a black and gold lens,
100%. And I think that's a great way to kind of frame it. And so this is not going to be some spectacular scouting report on all these guys every week.
I'm not going to be like, boy, did you see how he thread the needle cover 2 on that, dig route?
Right, in the middle of the third quarter.
Right.
But it's just so that by the time we get to the middle and end of February, when the Super Bowl is in the books and we are fully focused on the combine, we all have a nice baseline to attack.
Are they having a good year or not?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly
How's things going? Are they in the Heisman conversation, or are they? It sounds like Arch Manning's not at the moment.
He is not.
Yeah,
he is certainly not. And we can start there. I continue to be more and more convinced that Arch Manning will not come out of the draft this year as he kind of continues to struggle. They beat up on they beat up on San Jose State last week, but he didn't look great. Then they beat up on UTEP this past Saturday, but he didn't look great. Completed just 44% of his passes, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Matt, all the eyes are on this guy because of his last name, and he's at Texas, which is one of the biggest brands in college.
Sure.
But it's all like this is also his 5th start of his college football career. It's,
people are on J.J. McCarthy for not being good, or he just hasn't played. Right? I mean, I'm talking about relating it to the NFL. Right?
The amount of quarterbacks at any level who just hit the ground running and look great right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Jameis Winstons who throw 5 touchdowns and look like a Heisman candidate their first year at Florida State. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That's so very rare. And so I'm not out on Arch Manning long term, but I think let's get through this season. Let's see where he's at. I think there's a great chance he comes back next year, and then maybe he becomes the guy that everyone thinks he can be then.
I'm sure the scouting community got ahead of themselves. And the last name might have something to do with it, but people I trust, the Dane Bruglers and McShays, and I think there's some great draftniks out there, and this time of year I just rely on them. Whatever they tell me, I'm like, I believe it, Kuiper, whoever. But a lot of those folks thought that he was all that in a bag of chips before the Ohio State came. This dude has all the tools you want and the traits and mental makeup, pedigree. There's something he said for that too. So he still may be awesome, but not going – he just didn't take the world by storm, obviously, yet,
Correct. Another, I think, right after Arch Manning, the name that a lot of other football fans who might not be huge college football fans are familiar with is Lenoris Sellers, the quarterback of South Carolina.
Speaking of traits.
He might be, he's the one that you and I have said the last couple weeks, if you're putting a chip on the first quarterback off the board, he's the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, he's kind of becoming the prototype.
Might even be the odds-on favorite to be the first overall pick, not just the first quarterback taken.
I don't see many people talking about him that way, but I've been doing this a long time, and those are the kind of guys that go first overall.
Well, unfortunately for him, Matt, in the second quarter of Saturday's South Carolina loss to Vanderbilt, he got hit in the head and did not return. The guy from Vanderbilt who hit him was called for targeting and ejected from the game. So that tells you the type of hit that it was.
Yeah.
Concussion-type concerns. He did not return. His status for this weekend is up in the air. So, hey, it's still only September. I mean, even if he misses a week, he could come back, still be the guy that we all think that he is. But an unfortunate Saturday for South Carolina and for Lenoris Sellers as they lose him in the first half and maybe even now potentially for another week or so.
Okay. Well, that's certainly newsworthy. There's something to report on him then.
Very newsworthy. Cade Klubnik from Clemson, another name that we've discussed plenty in here if we want to stay in the state of South Carolina with their quarterbacks. They lost to Georgia Tech on a last-second field goal, Clemson did, and he was kind of uninspiring in that performance. Not terrible, but not a quarterback driving his team to victory in a close game. 15 of 26, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Did run for 62 yards, and a touchdown as well too. So not a poor performance, but not a we're going to go on the road against a tough Georgia Tech team, and I'm going to put the team on my back, and we're going to find a way to get this done. Like a stock neutral almost for me.
I mean, he certainly didn't. He's
not the reason they lost.
Yeah.
But he, I did not have the day that I think
just
that he was.
What you said
to have.
Didn't blow me away or anything.
Correct, and I would say the same about Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, who of course everyone's familiar with him and his father. They went to Florida to the swamp there in Gainesville. They beat the Gators 20-10. Leaning on their defense. He did what he had to do, 15 of 27, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He, to start the season, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His team is in good spot for LSU.
Yeah.
He's still warming up to the task a little bit.
They're a top 5 team, right?
They are, yes.
They're
I think
highly ranked
third
right now.
or fourth
I thought they were pretty
now,
high up,
yeah. He's another one of those. I wouldn't say his stock's up. I wouldn't say his stock's down, just kind of neutral, and I think we'll really start to learn more here as they get into conference play.
But these last two, Nuss and Klubnik, it's not like, they're skyrocketing towards the Heisman or
right. Right. We do have
who would be the Heisman favorite? Is there anybody at the moment?
Right now, you want my honest answer?
Yeah.
Probably your boy John Mateer.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
I think, and it's so hard to tell through 3 weeks.
Of course, I know that's an unfair question at this point.
But they had they've blown out the teams they're supposed to blow out. They killed Temple at Lincoln Financial Stadium in Philadelphia this past Saturday. They obviously had that big win against Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He was really good.
So he's been great all 3 weeks.
And again, it's against Temple.
I know, yeah.
But he was really good in all 3 games. You know what, too? A guy that I don't think has nearly the NFL buzz that he had the last couple years when he was at Georgia, now Carson Beck at Miami.
It's been a lot better from what I understand.
Been a lot better.
Yeah.
And they've had a couple big wins to start the season.
Yeah.
And
I
so
can see him getting Heisman
he might
buzz.
be
That
on
makes
that.
sense. Okay.
As you know, it's so often the quarterbacks early on in the year who are putting up big numbers and leading their teams to important victories.
It's not the young Ohio State receiver, he
not Jeremiah Smith. I mean,
he
would certainly be in the conversation.
I mean, he's awesome still, right?
He's unbelievable. But yeah, I think Mateer and Beck would be, at that. Ohio State's a top 5 team as well too. But your boy Mateer, again, albeit against Temple, had a very impressive
Strong
performance.
showing. Okay.
I thought as well too. So those were the guys that I would kind of put at the forefront right now. Like I said, Carson Beck. Completely.
I'm sure his draft stock's going up too.
Completely
has to be. Yeah.
82% of his, and they played South Florida, which some people might see on paper and go, "Huh." South Florida just beat the Florida Gators last week. They're ranked 18th in the country. Like, they're a pretty good program.
I was at Pitt, when South Florida came to the Big East, and we're like, oh, that just waters it down. Then you do homework on them, they're a big school, and they could recruit, and it's a hotbed, and that's not a throwaway program.
They would be one of the teams that would give WVU grief every year because they were the only ones with the speed to run with Rich Rodriguez's offense.
I bet. They were fat.
The speed advantage that WVU had with the Pat Whites and the Steve Slaytons and the Noel Devines was negated by those South Florida boys who could fly.
Yeah, we recruited that area heavy.
But yeah, Carson Beck, 340 yards, 82% of his passes he completed, 3 touchdowns as they comfortably beat the number 18 ranked South Florida Bulls 49-12. Good start to the season for
Miami's been impressive overall, huh?
Very much.
Yeah,
so.
I thought so.
Very much so. I thought that there was. Because they are one of those teams, Matt, Notre Dame was like this for a while until last year when they really broke through and made it to the national championship game. But Miami's been one of those teams that starts in the top 10 every year and finishes 8-4. Doesn't have a bad year, not like they're terrible or anything, but they seem to be consistently overhyped. So far, so good in that regard for Miami this year. And then maybe the last one to mention.
They have an edge guy, and they got a tackle that are going to probably go in the first round, too. I think Bain is
they could end up having a couple of first-round picks. And Mario Cristobal, who's now, I think, into his 4th year there. I want to say old head coach at Oregon before Dan Lanning.
I know some people that know him personally that think he's great.
I hear that same thing as well, from college football people.
He's a good hire, yeah.
And I think, his first year or two, I think it wasn't quite the quick turnaround maybe that they expected. And I think a lot of people were trying to throw salt on those wounds, but now – maybe a year later, but it seems like Miami is kind of back to where they expect to be, and they've got all kinds of resources, obviously, there.
First overall pick last year,
First overall pick last year does not hurt, certainly, and could have another quarterback taken in the first round this year if Carson Beck can keep it up. Last one for you, Matt, for the local angle, and because he deserves to be mentioned in this conversation as well, too, Drew Aller of Penn State. They dominated Villanova 52-6. Another one of those, it's stock neutral. He did his job.
I don't know what you prove against Villanova.
I wanted to bring our guy Fernando Mendoza into this as well.
Yeah, I was going to mention, don't they have Illinois coming up?
They have. I was just going to say, Matt, if you want to watch a game this Saturday, 3:30, number 9 Illinois travels to number 19 Indiana.
Are they legit top 20 teams? I mean, are they playing like that?
I think so.
Could they hang with Michigan or?
I think Michigan's a weird case this year.
Or Wisconsin or?
I wasn't going to say
Penn State. Or
I don't know
State,
if those teams. Right. I don't think those teams are on the same level as Penn State, Ohio State, LSU. Georgia.
I was even just keeping it in the Big Ten.
But I think they're in that second tier.
I forget some of these other teams are in the Big Ten now.
They're all in the Big Ten now.
There's not just 10 teams in the Big Ten anymore, right?
They, to me, are not in that tier of favorites, but they're in that second tier of could definitely make the playoff and could give somebody could be a really tough out.
Okay.
And that one...
Boy, that's great for them.
It sure is. For both of those programs that are traditionally basketball schools and,
not football powerhouses.
Both in the top 20. That's kind of like their equivalent of the backyard brawl, those two
huge
schools.
Rivalry, right.
So 3:30, a top 20 matchup between Illinois and Indiana this Saturday will be one to keep an eye on. When we land in Providence, it'll be about halftime.
Okay.
And so
that'll be one of the feature games this weekend for sure.
That's going to be one of the games I'll be rushing back to the hotel or the restaurant or wherever.
Watch Mendoza, folks.
Watch Mendoza.
It wouldn't blow me away if he ends up in black and gold.
It would not with me either.
Right.
So he's also kind of in that Drew Aller camp of, I think he's played pretty well. The competition hasn't been great. I mean, Mendoza dominated Indiana State. He was like 19 of 20. With like 3 or 4 touchdowns and a couple hundred yards before they took him out. And actually, I didn't realize this, but it's his younger brother who's his backup.
Oh, that's cool.
At Indiana right now. Just so you go from Mendoza to Mendoza.
Yeah.
There in the middle of a blowout. But yes, that's maybe we'll start doing that too, throwing out a game or two for everybody, with their black and gold glasses to keep an eye on in the college football slate. Watch Mendoza against the top 10 opponent this weekend.
That is something we should mention, at least going into the college weekend.
Absolutely.
Maybe just DVR it and buzz through it and watch Justice Rose or whatever. Right.
Or maybe you're not sitting there and watching for 3.5 hours, but it's something that you can go back and watch the condensed 20-minute highlight package or whatever.
When Mendoza's not on the field, just fast forward through it if you want.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And so that is a big one, I think. For this weekend between those two teams. Texas Tech and Utah, another top 20 battle, will be a lot of fun.
Utah has 2 highly sought-after offensive tackles.
Yes, they do.
I'm hoping the Steelers aren't in the offensive tackle market. We've talked about this with Broderick before, but they have 2 tackles that are probably going in the first round.
You know this, Matt. There's only like 1 or 2 things that I don't absolutely love about my job. Number 1 is working with you. No, I'm kidding. I love working with you. Number 1 is how often we have to work on holidays and major times of the year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Number 2 is it requires me to miss WVU games at Mountaineer Field where I have to give my season tickets to my parents or to somebody else.
That's probably ahead on your list than working on Christmas.
Don't tell my wife and kids.
Don't tell anybody. No one's
listening. It certainly is. Next week, though, maybe the one time I won't be as upset to give up my WVU tickets because I'll be in Dublin, Ireland. I mean, I think that's a fair sacrifice to make.
Right.
But Utah, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, Utah comes to Morgantown. And that's the game I'll miss when we're in Ireland. And I'm really kind of bummed about not being able to see that Utah team in person because I think they're really good. I think they're well coached. And I think they've always got NFL prospects.
I have
in the
a hunch
trenches.
we might be sitting at Guinness or Jameson or something like that, and you're watching on your phone some way, shape, or form, and not hating life too bad.
Yes, I'm hoping that it's like a noon or a 3:30 kickoff, so that it will be because if it's an 8,
I still haven't figured out the times.
We'll be 5 hours ahead. We'll be 5 hours ahead.
I don't know what that means.
You'll figure it out when we get there.
Yeah.
But Auburn and Oklahoma host Auburn this weekend in another top 25 matchup. So a good test for Mateer with an SEC ranked team.
I think they have
Auburn.
a big time edge guy too at Auburn.
Yes, exactly.
They have a linebacker too. It's also sought after.
So those are some of the South Carolina goes to Missouri, which is normally one I'd tell people to watch. We'll wait and see what Sellers' status is. And sorry, I was wrong. The Illinois-Indiana game is 7:30 at night, not 3:30.
Good. There's a better chance I'll actually watch it.
Better chance, I think, for most people to sit down and watch that one as well, too. So there's kind of your college quarterback, your college conversation of the week, as we'll continue to keep an eye on that as we roll along throughout the regular season. But, Matt, I want to get into some hodgepodge of statistics, some hodgepodge of randomness when we return, as we'll start turning the page a little bit and looking ahead to this weekend's contest against the New England Patriots. We'll do all that. We'll talk to our buddy Chris Halleck here in hour number 2. Plenty more to get to. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on The Drive here on a Wednesday. We're going to talk to our buddy Chris Halleck in about 15 minutes from DK Pittsburgh Sports, get all the latest on the South Side from him. Of course, Chris, another guy who knew and worked with our brother Dale Lolley closely, so we will obviously get his thoughts and his memories and his appreciations of Dale here in a few minutes as well too. I think that'll kind of be a fitting way to bookend the show.
I know Chris really, really looks up to him professionally, and took him under his wing at DK and all that stuff. And pull back the curtain. I say that a lot lately. I texted Chris today and gave him the news, and he's really broken up about it. I think he's writing something for DK's website. We'll ask him about it and all those things too. But I also told him, very Dale-like fashion, I'm like, Dale wasn't, I think my exact words were, Dale wasn't super keen on the new wave of reporters.
Correct.
kind of an old school dude.
If you're under the age of 30, he probably wasn't too hip to what
I'm
you were
like,
doing.
but Chris, he was a big fan, and that's a big compliment because a lot of that group was not Dale's bag,
No, it was not. He was an old school guy with an old school mentality.
Right.
And didn't have time for some of this new age nonsense.
Yeah, I'm not putting up with that riffraff, right?
But I think he did not consider me riffraff and did not consider Halleck riffraff, and so yes, we were both very fortunate to, I think, have that mentorship and that friendship certainly with Dale. Something that we'll talk to with Chris about here in just a few minutes. Matt, the hodgepodge of stats, the hodgepodge of randomness for a few minutes before
I was digging in pretty heavy last night.
Yes, before we and I do want to get to some of the things that you tweeted out and put out there, but I wanted to run this past you first.
Oh, cool.
Last year, the Steelers' defense, according to NFL Next Gen stats, had the second lowest missed tackle rate in the NFL.
Yeah. I actually put this one out, too.
Did you put this one out, too?
Yeah, really good tackling group.
Really good tackling group last year.
This is from, and I hardly ever reference tackle stats because, first of all, a tackle gets really overblown depending what building you're in, blah, 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 blah.
Ray Lewis got a tackle on every play in Baltimore, even if he was 5 yards away from the ball carrier.
And frankly, who's calling a missed tackle? Like, that's a little gray to me. But these are straight from NFL.com. They're totally impartial, so maybe they're a tackle or two off that I wouldn't have called or whatever. But they have no agenda, so I thought it was worthwhile bringing this one up too.
It's a fair evaluation.
Yeah, as fair as you're going to get in this realm.
Piece of data.
Right,
yes.
right.
So from having the second best rate in this regard last year, second lowest amount of missed tackles in the NFL. Second best.
Yeah.
Through 2 games, they are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
They are missing tackles at a league high rate, 18.2% of the time, 28 missed tackles already through 2 games.
So I don't know how to take this, but I think it adds up. You watch the games. They are not getting people on the ground as well as they should. I mean, I think that's safe to say. Now, I guess you could look at it half full, half empty. Like a bunch of new defenders. Did they bring in a bunch of bad tacklers, compared to last year? Perhaps. But there's a lot of the same guys, too. Like Minka was a great tackler. Like, that's
outstanding.
That one's not going to be replaced well. I mean, he's one of the reasons for sure. But I also look at it and be like, that's pretty correctable, though. Maybe that's just early season fatigue, playing with your buddies, those type of things. I'm betting that they're not at the bottom of the league when the season's over. It seems pretty correctable to me for a talented defense.
I think that is one of those things that you can look at and you can say, okay, we can improve here.
We have to get better there. We will get better there. Right.
We've been great here recently, and we need to get back to that department here sooner rather than later.
If you had a bunch of little guys that were too small for their position that are getting steamrolled, or slow guys that barely get there, okay, maybe it won't get better. Well, they don't.
Matt, another thing that we've kind of been tracking, discussing, following since the offseason and into the start of the season is the Steelers' sack differential. We talked about that last year. We talked a lot about how they finished with 40 sacks, dead average, 16th in the league, in an area where for a long time before that they accelerated. They were number 1 in the league for 4 or 5 straight years. They were top 3, top 5, a lot around there as well, too. The sack numbers have not been there. The sack differential certainly reflects that when Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 7 times through 2 games. But what's maybe kind of worrying about that is that the Steelers are blitzing 41% of the time so far on defense. That's 3rd highest in the NFL.
And I'll take it even one step further, and I can't remember if I put this on Twitter within the same hour of doing that or not. I think I did. But Steeler opposing quarterbacks, so it wasn't an excuse, it was truth, but man, they can't get home because the ball's coming out too early. Well, it's not. I mean, Steeler opposing quarterbacks, and a lot of it's because they faced Fields. It's such a small sample size. Time to throw against the Steelers is very high. It's into the 3-second neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So if you just look at numbers, which, hey, I love numbers. Ball's coming out slow. You're blitzing like crazy. And blitz rates don't always tell you this, but I can promise you when the Steelers blitz, they bring 6 at a higher percentage than most defenses that bring 5. So they're big blitzes too. And you're still not getting the sacks. That's terrible. This team stinks. Kill everybody. They're terrible, And that's not great. If there was a stat for just missed sacks, I bet the Steelers would be lead the league by 1 million, by the way, because they've had a lot of bad luck of if this quarterback holds the ball for 1 split second more, or if they could just got Fields on the ground, they're really close to having a lot of sacks. I know nobody cares about that. Horseshoes and hand grenades. You know what I mean?
In fact, we used to mock Myles Garrett for that when people would talk about pass rush win rate.
I know, but their pass rush win rate, their pressures, it's affecting the game. I think that'll come too. You know what I mean? It's just they haven't had the sacks, but they are dialing up blitzes. People are like, nothing ever changes around here. One thing I would like to see change schematically is I'm still seeing too much off coverage mixed with the blitzes.
Okay.
So get down there and rattle cages, and maybe Porter being out had something to do with that. Man coverage is great, but if it's off man and they're throwing hot, you're not giving that guy enough. You're giving that corner too much cushion to come up and make anything happen, or make Darnold pat that ball just 0.3 seconds longer. And I think the sack numbers would have been higher, So that's how you evaluate things throughout the course of the year, though,
It is 3.04 seconds average time to throw. That's second highest in the NFL, only behind Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
they're holding the ball and you're bringing extra pressure, and it's not resulting in sacks, but I bet that one does.
I would wager that way, too. I would lean that way, too. But this is another thing that we'll keep an eye on as we go along here that would be one of those key indicators.
If you're going to be aggressive, if they're going to hold the ball and you're going to be super aggressive, bringing extra pressure, you better get sacks, especially with these pass rushers.
It is where the Steelers spend their money. It is what the defense is predicated upon, is getting after quarterbacks and making life miserable for those guys, and they have not done enough of that through 120 minutes.
And I don't think T.J. Watt forgot how to put quarterbacks on their back, or Cam Hayward for that matter, and I still think Benton and Harmon are quality interior pass rushers, and I know Herbig's really good at what he does off the edge, just put it in terms of sacks. Doesn't sound like Highsmith's going to be gone a super long time. Who knows, knock on wood. And if you're bringing extra pressure, I know Ramsey's a good blitzer. I know Queen's a good blitzer. I know Wilson's a good blitzer. Now let's see the results.
Yes. It's time to see the fruits of that labor.
Yeah.
And again, I'm confident that will be the case, but we need to see it. And I think we need to see it soon. If we're going to kind of get turned back into what we think this defense can be, is capable of being, that's where it starts.
And I'm not here to blow smoke. I mean, like I just said, boy, their tackle numbers are terrible. I think they'll get better. The stats pass rush wise that we just went over aren't flattering, but I think they'll get better. I do believe that, or I wouldn't have said it, but the run defense, I don't know if it'll get better. It needs to, but I don't have as much proof that it will as those other two things, although better tackling would help.
Yes. It all works in the same ecosystem.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
well
maybe
said
even their
by you.
tackling on finishing sacks hasn't been great. It wasn't against Fields.
It was not.
And part of it's because he's hard to tackle, but everybody's hard to tackle in this league.
And that's a good point. And there's a lot of players, a lot of ball carriers, quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs that are difficult to bring to the ground. Yeah, the kind of overall numbers are not great, Matt, via True Media, which I know you're a huge fan of.
I just actually got a subscription like a week or so ago. I need a tutorial. I might have to go on YouTube and see if somebody will coach me up, but it's a lot to digest, but that's where a lot of these numbers come from. Advanced analytics.
Through 2 weeks, which is important to note.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks, but also as Mike Tomlin said, 2 weeks is where you start to see trends.
Yeah, that trend needs to change.
Defensive success rate, 31st out of 32 teams.
Yeah. Again, we've talked a lot of success rate stuff. Steelers' run game has not been a
when you're
good
giving up
success rate.
4+ on first down.
Yep. Again, when you lose success rate repeatedly, I think a lot of it directly just says you're losing at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Maybe you're not allowing big plays. The guys in the secondary are playing well or whatever. But if you're losing at the line of scrimmage, you're giving the opponent too many successful plays.
EPA per play for the Steelers defense, 29th out of 32 team.
Yeah.
EPA per drive for the Steelers defense, 29 out of 32 teams. Points allowed for the Steelers defense. Stop me if you're seeing a theme here. 29th out of 32 teams.
Right.
Yards per play and yards per game for the Steelers defense, 29th out of 32 teams.
That's how the defense is playing right now. It's unacceptable. I mean, I think everyone if we went to a defensive meeting room right now, they'd all tell you that's not what we are. That's not what we should be. It can't be.
Can't be.
Yeah.
And again, there is a lot of well-known symptoms that fit that diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
But the run defense, the tackling, and the getting after quarterbacks, I think is kind of the first
real good place to start.
1 and 2 on the grease board of
Right.
where we're starting this week and where we're starting Sunday up in New England.
Yeah, and it's funny. I did a podcast. You can find it on Steelers.com that I do with Tom Offerman, and we always break down matchups, and I record them Tuesday night. I think it's up there now. And I said there's fewer individual matchups in this particular game that I'm interested in. You know, like Smith-Njigba versus Ramsey. You know, I mean, there's always ones you highlight. And I kind of thought this game was more about what the Steelers do. Just get better at concentrate on yourself as opposed to this running back versus linebacker matchup. You know,
Sure.
Get back to running the ball at just a little more consistent clip. Get better at tackling. Get better at your fundamentals. Get better at your own thing as opposed to outside influence, you know?
Landscape your own yard.
Yeah.
Who cares how nice the tree looks in your neighbors? Who
Right,
cares
right.
how green the grass is across the road? Just landscape your own yard and get it looking
There's
the
some
best
weeds
that it can
growing,
be.
man.
There's some weeds growing. There's some
Right.
dry patches.
But you can pull those weeds.
You sure can. You
Yeah.
can get some fertilizer. You can get some water. You can get some gloves on, and
Yeah,
you can
get it
get
out
to
there.
work. But yeah, as we'll continue to track all year, sack differential now sits at -4. Explosive play differential sits at -12.
That can't happen.
When we're here next Wednesday, revisiting this, that sack differential needs to be closer to 0, and that explosive play differential needs to at least be into single-digit negatives.
Fortunately, turnover differential still hasn't been bad, you know, but those secondary categories that are very telling have been.
No doubt. We'll talk about all these things and more to close down shop with our buddy Chris Halleck on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Well, bad news. We've had issues in this building, this entire iHeart Studios, with the phone lines over the last week or so. I know it's affected DVE, it's affected Mark Madden, it's affected everybody. Unfortunately, right as we went to try and call our buddy Chris Halleck, we have an issue with the phone lines in this studio once again, and unable to, well, at least right now in this moment, get an engineer to fix it for us. So we're gonna have to punt on our buddy Chris Halleck,
Skip that for now,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Maybe we'll try and get him on tomorrow or Friday. If not, we'll definitely
That'd be great.
talk to him next week, obviously, as well, too. We're just going to have to kind of wait and see what this phone situation is here.
The Dale situation aside, I want to get some practice stuff out of him. I got to pick his brain on a couple of just football things, but I also want to hear his take on Dale as well. Hope it doesn't affect Labs and Missy later in the week, too, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get that, like I said, all squared away here and good for tomorrow. But for now, instead of that, Matt, I pulled a couple tweets that we can get to get us out of here, if that's all right with you. Andrew tweets us and says, would like to hear you guys' opinion on the defensive scheme, not putting players in the best situation, sometimes hanging them out to dry.
Yeah, I mentioned, off coverage.
Benton a little bit, and some of that off coverage stuff.
I mean, maybe that needs to firm up. They're a very static defense, and I think that needs to be examined. And what I mean by that is, even without Minka, they're predominantly a single high defense. Fine. I mean, that's not the end of the world. You are what you are. But they also don't move nearly as much as other defenses right before the snap or at the snap. And I think quarterbacks are kind of knowing where people are at. And these offensive coordinators and quarterbacks are just so smart that a lot of disruption, sacks across the league happen when you just make that quarterback have to double look at where things are at. Ball snapped. I'm in the shotgun. Get the ball.
Second guess for a half second.
a millisecond. Just that those safeties are exactly where I thought they were, fine, or they're not. And I think they should re-examine making that quarterback, when he gets the ball in his hands, that first instant of a down, at least think about things more.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that's man coverage and bump and run, off coverage is, okay, I'm just going to get out there. I'm reading the blitz, or safety rotation, rock and roll in the safeties, whatever. But I think they've been a little static. And we know they've been static with their defensive linemen. Hayward lines up here, Watt lines up here. That doesn't bother me as much. I mean, there's something to be said for having players be in the most comfortable spot they could be. But there certainly is value across the league to Chris Jones walks around the line of scrimmage and says, you're my Huckleberry.
Good luck.
Yeah, right.
You're my Huckleberry. Swing State Sampson tweets us and says, I know we can't afford for him to get hurt because of the depth at position, but I think Calvin Austin would be a fantastic kick returner. Thoughts?
I'm going to fight you on that, because even with the new kickoff rules, I think a great punt returner doesn't equal a great kickoff returner. Yeah, I mean, because a punt returner has to be more Austin jukey. And what I mean by that is
twitchy.
Catch the ball, twitchy, make someone miss left, right, get upfield as quick as I can. If I get 8 yards on a punt return, I'm pretty happy about it before someone drags you down. If you get 8 yards on a kickoff return, I'm not happy about it. And why I say I'm not sure that Austin would be a great kickoff returner, because he's not a tackle breaker. Yeah, I mean, kickoff return collisions are more, and they're trying to get away from it, but they can't 100%, are more people both running closer to full speed at one another, as opposed to a punt returner not yet up to full speed, having to make somebody miss. So you want more running back style kickoff returners and Austin style punt returners. And he does make a good point too. They can't afford Calvin Austin to get
absolutely
blown
not.
apart.
That would be
right.
a worst case scenario at this point almost. I mean, other than losing DK Metcalf, that would be
I don't think he brings you enough to go down that road. I mean, is he better than Johnson, Warren, Gainwell? Probably not in that capacity. In space with the ball in his hands, yes. Mm-hmm. But a good punt returner is not a good kick returner. I mean, there's Devin Hester that is. I mean, there's people in history that are, don't get me wrong. But
D'Angelo Hall.
Right. I mean, Antonio Brown, I don't think would have been a good kick returner, because he's smaller. I mean, he's not going to break arm tackles.
Skill set, different mindset.
Running at a faster speed.
Matt, last one to get us out of here. This is a fun one from JT. Little random, but what's the most spontaneous thing you two have ever done?
Wow.
I'm assuming he doesn't mean together. I think he means just
I would assume.
in our lifetimes. I've got an answer for you, actually, if you need to think about it for a second.
I'm sure mine's not for public consumption.
Well, I could have probably shared a couple of those. I think I might have told you this story before, though, but on a random Friday night in November of 2011,
whoa,
I was a junior in college.
Okay.
Me and two of my other buddies from WVU who were also from Pittsburgh, okay? One was from your neck of the woods, Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon. The other one was from Beaver.
Okay.
We realized on this Friday, hey, the Mountaineers play in Cincinnati tomorrow, and the Steelers play in Cincinnati on Sunday. Why don't we go?
Always go.
After some drinks on a Friday night.
Right. Better idea.
It was a noon game in Cincinnati for the Mountaineers on Saturday. It's about a 4-hour drive. So
doable.
Late on a Friday night, we're like, hey, 7 a.m., we're all getting up. And we're going to Cincinnati.
I thought you were going to go Friday night.
We thought about it.
Yeah.
But again,
who's driving?
None of us were capable of driving at that point. We were like, we're going to get up early tomorrow morning. We're going to drive to Cincinnati. We're going to scalp tickets to the game, back in the physical ticket era when this still happened all the time. We're going to go watch.
Throw in on a cheap hotel or something.
We're going to watch the Mountaineers play Cincinnati, play the Bearcats. Then we'll throw down on a cheap hotel. We had all just kind of turned 21 around this same time period as well, too.
You hit the bars and stuff.
And then we'll get up Sunday. We'll scalp tickets. We'll go to the Steelers game. We did it.
I said you actually followed through.
We followed through on it. We got up Saturday somehow on time and made it there for kickoff.
And so that's the hurdle.
That's the struggle when you're 21 years old, staying up late on Friday night. Mountaineers won on a blocked field goal on the last play of the game. We were up 3. Cincinnati had
Travis Kelce was on that team.
I think he was.
He probably was.
I think he was. We were up 3. They had like a 40-yard field goal, should have made it type situation to force overtime. We blocked it on the last play of the game to win. And then the Steelers beat the Bengals by a touchdown. I think 24-17 was the final score on Sunday. That was the most spontaneous thing that ended up with 2 very good results for your boy as well, too. That I think I've done.
Nice.
That is at least shareable on air as well.
Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything, to be honest with you, and if I would, I probably would incriminate me in bad ways. But so I'm going to bypass that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll save that one for the back pocket. Maybe
I'll
one
come up
for
with
later.
one overnight too, but
yeah, sorry for a little bit of the audible here at the end of the show for everybody, but I think you'll bear with us and understand. We will do our best to catch up with our buddy.
It hasn't
Chris
been
Hallett.
the average day around here either.
It certainly has not been the average day around here. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. A lot of you too, just kind of offering kind words and support.
I've gotten a million tweets, even the 2 hours we've been on the air, and thank you. Yeah.
And we won't respond or acknowledge all of them, but know that it means a lot.
Yeah, I hit like on a bunch of them because thank you. Yeah. And a lot of kind words about the drive in general and loving it over the years, and thank you. And
needless to say, Matt, for you and for our listeners, I know you know this, and I'm sure they do too, but this will be far from the only day that we talk about and honor our friend Dale Lolley going forward.
Of course.
Big thanks to Matt. Big thanks to our YouTube producer, Mr. TV, and to each and every one of you for rocking and rolling with us on an emotional day here. Take care, everybody. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you tomorrow. You know where to find us. Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.